Hi, it's Sandy Parker and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. I'm going to show you how to make cards out of scraps and I hope you'll stay tuned. Well, first I wanted to show you some of the cards I made myself already with scraps, and I'll show you the technique after I show you the cards. And I promised I would show you these. These are the cards I made using the diamond art. They're embellishments that came from fancells.com, and I'll put a link down below. The card bases are those cheap ones that you get at Michael's, and then I put matching, or tried to match, washi tape to the back. I'll just show you a few of those. I put some of the extra diamonds all around on this one, some foam tape behind the embellishment, and then a die cut of Happy Birthday, and again washi tape on the envelope. Then this one is another design that I did that's really fun, where you make it into like a starburst, and then I put the birthday hat on top of it. I should have done a different color for Happy Birthday because you can't see it as well. And again, I put diamonds around the outside. Then this one, I really like this one because I was able to use 5 little diamonds in the center of those flowers. And the Happy Birthday shows up better. And I put a little diamond on the eye. And, of course, the little candy sucker in the center. This one, of course, is one of my favorites with the great big cake, and I put a lot of diamonds on this one. And again, I will show you exactly how I made these. Here's the Happy Birthday with a cupcake. Then I'll show you a couple more with that I made using big stamped image that I alcohol inked and then attached to it. This one I didn't put any sentiment on, and I liked the way this one came out. I embossed it, then put the word hi there and put some extra diamonds on it. Hopefully I'm in camera. Sometimes I get confused about where the camera is. I use almost all of my scrap paper up. Here's another one of the diamond ones. I put a little paper clip there, and this has a little tassel on. I thought that was kind of fun. And I did the same with this one in green. Thought that was frisky. And this one in purple. I got these little tassel paper clips at the Dollar Tree a couple months ago, so they probably still have them. Then I did Thinking of You with the little, this is a brad. I'm not going to show you all of them because there are a lot. Here is one that I did in masculine colors, and then I put little dots around the Happy Birthday to make it stand out more with a black Sharpie. And no, that one's just the same as the other ones. Here's one with a great big hello on it. It's kind of fun. Anyway, I made a few million cards to get rid of all of my scraps. And I was really proud of myself because I did get rid of all my scraps. But what I didn't do is look in my drawer where I found another big stack of scraps. So I'm back to square one where I have a ton of scraps again. And yeah, so anyway, I'm going to show you now how to make these for Christmas cards using your Christmas scraps. So the first thing I want to tell you before we get started putting together one of those cards so you can see how to do it, I bought this cardstock at Walmart. This is to replace they used to sell a better cardstock that was inexpensive, Georgia Pacific, that I really liked. This is supposed to be 110 pounds, but the way they make paper, the 110 pounds can vary, and this is not good 110 pound paper. I'll show you the difference between it and the Michael's 110 pound heavyweight. This is Michael's 110 pound heavyweight black cardstock, and I don't know if you can see this, but let's say I tried to fold it. I almost can't even fold that in half because it's so thick. But this paper, no problem at all. So what I would say is you're going to want to use this for your layers, not your not the actual card base, because it's not sturdy enough for your card base. But for this project, I'm going to be using it for what I'm going to be doing in this first round. And Lindsay the Frugal Crafter made cards with scraps, and I liked the way she did it, and I thought I would give it a whirl. What you want to do is you want to go through your scraps and you want to pick them out by color. And what I did was I picked out reds, greens, and blues, and these are this is my red stack, and this is an embossing folder that I'm going to be using with it. Anyway, let me show you what I did with my blue and my green. This is my blue. Now I know this looks really bad, but when you're using that inexpensive cardstock, it looks like this when it's done. What we're going to be doing with this is we're going to be running it, we're going to be cutting it in quarters, and then we're going to run it through our die cutting machine with an embossing folder so that it becomes flat and it has an impression on it. Then this is what I did with the green. And this is, I'm going to have some kind of sentiment or image in the center, and then I'll glue this to a card base. So that's how I've done it so far. And these work better if you have, see this, it's a corrugated, perforated, I don't know what it's called. It's got a waffle to it. That really makes a big difference when you have some kind of dimension on these cards, as does glitter cardstock. I recommend using anything you can find that has a little bit of glitter on it, or if you have glitter strips or ones that have gold on them, that really makes a big difference on these cards. So I'll show you, we'll separate out our red the way I did it before. This was left over in my green stack, as was this. And I wasn't sure if I would use it or not, but I put it with my red stack because that was my last stack to go, and I wanted to make sure that if I had to come up with a plan for it, that I had some extras to do that with. Okay, so these are some sticker strips. I thought those would be fun to use on it that I found in my stash. And then that one also is from my green stash. Okay, so then here is one of those perforated, or I don't know what you call that. What do you call that? You fill in the word right there. But anyway, I'm going to be using some of this paper on it. And what I like to do when I'm organizing my paper for this is I like to organize it kind of by what colors look better together, and I'll explain it like this. Do you see the red in this and the red in that? They look pretty good together, but if you put this red with it, it's too pink, so you have to find something that goes well with that. Then this red looks nice, so I can kind of put those three in a row, and then from there I think I can go to this color, then maybe this one. I have very little of this, I think, so I'm going to put that aside for now. Then I think I can go into this color. Every once in a while, what you'll find when you're doing this is you'll find a particular pattern that you just don't want to use, and I've found that to be the case with a few things where I just was like, ugh, I just hate that. Now here's how I do this. You might find a completely different way to do it, but when I do this, I cut for both my 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and my triangles. So I cut strips and I cut triangles. So I cut my strips first, and then whatever I have left over, I try to make sure that when I cut my strips that I have enough left over to make 3 of my triangles. So I'm going to cut, and I cut my strips in different widths. I just kind of randomly do that. I don't do it so that I'm going to have all the same width. Okay, so I'm going to turn this so you can kind of see the first one. What I do to make my triangles, I don't know if you can see that, but I turn it so that the paper comes to a point. And then I cut it so that my strip looks like that. See that? Then the next one, I turn it and I go a different way. And then my last piece, just because this one is kind of wonky, I did this. So here are my diamonds. I have 3 diamond shaped ones. I'm calling them diamonds. They're triangles. This is what they look like. They're not all the same shape. They're not all the same length, and that's okay, because when you do this, you'll find out. Here's the key part about these. Put those triangles, or diamonds, whatever you're going to call them, put them in an order. This is why we did the color thing, so that when we're done with this, we can just basically start. When we're done with the long strips, we can just go right into the other strips. So I'm gonna cut some strips of this red, and this red is really wide, which is wide, which is nice, because then I can do some long strips on my 8.5 by 11 paper. So I'm gonna do one more of those because I'm sure I have enough for my diamonds. Again, I'm putting these in an order too, just so I know what I'm doing. I'm going to cut this long piece in half because I can make more diamonds that way, because they don't have to be super long. And you'll find uses for shorter ones and for longer ones. And what I also do is, if I end up having more, like in this case, I'm going to have more than three triangles. What I do is I can make 2 card bases. I always have enough. What I've found so far is, by doing it the way I've been doing it, I always have enough for 2 of the triangular cards, and, well, 8 is what I've ended up with of the cards made with the strips. Again, we're going to do long strips with this one. I'm just going to show you like one more, and then I'm going to just turn off the camera and cut the rest of the paper, because I'm pretty sure you'll get the gist of it if you've seen me do a couple. I had someone tell me that the reason I had trouble with some of my paper trimmers is I didn't read the directions on them. I thought that was kind of funny. And so I sent her a note back and I said I appreciated that, but I did read the directions. Maybe I'm just not good at using them. That was more what I thought my problem was. I'm just not equipped to do it. Okay, so here are my triangular shaped ones. And again, I'm keeping them all in order, in pile order. I can move my order around, you know, I don't have to keep it exactly the way I set it up originally, but it makes it easier if, when you start this process, if you have your strips in an order. So I'll be back when I've got everything cut. So what I've done is I've put all of my strips on my cutting mat, my craft mat, whatever you call it. I got this at the Dollar Tree. And I've put my paper on top. Only need 1 sheet. The first thing I like to do is I like to find my longest strips, which is this one and this one. And I'm using, on this one, I'm using glue stick. Now, I don't think it'll come off. I'm going to emboss it and then run it through my die cutting machine, so it should be really sturdy and we shouldn't have a problem with it coming off. But, you know, if somebody gets it and it fell apart, I am going to feel bad about that, but what are you going to do? This is what you do when you have Christmas in the middle of a quarantine, right? Where you're making your Christmas cards. Your attention to detail isn't as great as it could be. At least mine isn't. Okay, I'm lining this up, or I'm trying to, with the edge of my sheet. of paper. And then you can see I have a little gap right there. So my next strip, which is this one, I'm going to see if I can get one of these that's that width of that little gap. Perfect. So then we'll just run our glue the whole length of this strip. And I do my gluing right on my paper because I get a little more glue and I'm happy about it. You know what I mean? And then I'm just going to line that up on this side again on the edge. I usually put glue on both the paper that I'm going to glue it to and the piece that I just attached it to. Now remember, these pieces that I have alongside it, it's important that you keep track of that and then try to glue them next to each other so that your colors work together, like that, those two pieces right there. So I'm gonna put a piece, run some glue there and run it on the back, and I'm just gonna keep doing this as trying to get as straight as possible with each one and making sure that I have enough glue on them. And I'll just keep doing this, and if I get stuck and need to come up with a new plan on one of the pieces, I'll let you know. But in the meantime, I'm just going to rich fast forward. Okay, now I know it doesn't look like a lot right now, but once we put it through our die cutting machine with the snowflake embossing folder and do a couple more things with it, I think you're going to like it. So that's the first piece, and I'm going to go off screen and do a second piece to get rid of all of those scraps, and then I'll be back. So I started out with an 8.5-inch tall card base by 5.5 inches wide. I scored it on the 8.5-inch side at 4.25 inches to make this is an A2 size card, and I'm going to glue my triangle right onto this base. Excuse my nails. This glue just rips the nail polish right off. I don't know how it happens. It just does. I have been using school glue and it's really waffly on the paper, so I've switched to glue sticks, and glue sticks make the paper nicer, but I don't know how long they'll stay. Like, how long will they hold for? I don't know. So that's my big concern about the diamond shapes. So the first piece I'm going to use is a smaller one. You want to decide right off the bat, where do you want your point to end up? And I always like to have mine a little bit off center. I don't like mine to be directly in the middle of my card. So that's why I do what I'm doing now by putting the point over there. And then you can use shorter papers on this side, if you know what I mean. So you can put, to make this so that the points are all even or close to even. This will be hidden because I always put something there to make sure that it's covered, because my points never actually line up perfectly, and I don't really work hard at that because, like I said, I always put something over it to cover it, so it's not like it's, it's not like it's crucial that it's covered. I organized my all my patterns so that the colors were as close to matching as I could make them, where, in the card itself. I want them to be kind of cohesive, if I can make it work like that. Then you have some pieces like this one that's humongous. You don't need this big for sure. So I'm just going to cut a little bit of it off, and then I still will probably have a lot left over, but this is a corner piece, and the corner pieces are sometimes much longer because you have to make sure you cover both corners. Like, you have to cover the left side and the top, so you have to make sure that you don't miss one of those two edges or your card won't look that good. The one after this one is gold, so I have this little kind of orangish gold line in it, and I thought that would make it look nice with the gold. I'm looking for a shorter one if I have one, but I guess I don't. This is probably the shortest one I have in gold. And I'm gonna make sure I get that glued down. Hopefully I've been in screen. If I'm not, I'm so sorry, because I hate it when I do that. It makes me crazy. And if they're really long, like the one I just did, what I do with these is I cut them off, and then when I'm doing a second card with all these patterns, I'll have enough of these scraps left over that I should be able to cut these ones down and make them into points too, so that I can use my leftovers, especially like the gold, because gold, I don't have a lot of the gold left. I do have a lot of gold, but not in scraps, and I'm trying really hard to use my scraps here. You just want to make sure you really butt those up against each other. If you don't do that well, on the sides, you're going to end up not having a card that you're going to like, because you will see that. You won't see that center, but you definitely will see if there's gaps, on the sides here. Don't have any gaps. The glitter papers and the mirror papers really add to these cards. If you have any of those kind of scraps, I really recommend you using them for this, because you will not regret it. It makes it so much more, I don't know, elegant looking, I guess. If any card I make is elegant looking, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think it does make it look more elegant. Okay, here's where I'm talking about that corner. You see this piece goes along the top and along the right side. When you flip it over, you can see, do you see how you have to have that piece longer than both the top and the side? If you don't do that, you're going to end up seeing the background of your card. You don't want that. Okay, the other thing you want to do, you see how I'm starting to get a really big angle here? You need to start fixing that, and the way you fix it is you overlap the paper before it, and you put the point more upward. And see how this one, the point goes all the way over here? Now we're overlapping and moving it so that the point is more in the center again, because we want to make sure that you're not having them lean all the way to the left. Like this one was really on a big lean, and we don't want that big lean. And I know it looks kind of crazy right now, and I will probably use a different card back on this. I'll make a second card with my extra scraps, because I have enough leftover pieces that I can make a second one of these. And when I do it, what I like to do is use all these extra pieces, and if my card gets all gluey like this one did, I just cut this off and use the back for the next card. And you always want to cut it from the back, because this is where you'll be able to see where everything sticks out the best. You ready? Isn't it cool? I don't think when you're doing it, I don't think you ever think it's going to be as fun as it is once it's done. But I think they really turn out cool. Anyway, so what we're going to do next is I'm going to wait for everything to dry, and then I'll come back and we'll finish all these cards up. So the first thing you do once everything is dry, and I usually let everything dry overnight, I glued this one together with the glue stick. And the other ones I use wet glue on. I just used Elmer's school glue or Staples school glue, whatever school glue I had. The difference though, when you do that is that, okay, I'll show you this one. This one I did with wet glue. You can probably see it's very waffly. That doesn't really matter much because we're going to run it through the through an embossing folder, and that'll flatten it. And your other ones that you've done, these ones that we did with the Starburst design, this one I did with the glue stick. Then these ones I did with wet glue, and then I ran them through my die cutter with nothing in there. You just do a regular sandwich, you run it through, and it flattens them out. Or you could put a big heavy book on it, but I think it's faster to just do the embossing folder. And then I cut them all down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 so that I would have a little border around an A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. So I'm going to show you what you do to cut this in half. Now you can use any kind of paper trimmer. I'm using the guillotine just because it's faster for me when I'm doing these. You want to cut these in half at 5 1/2 inches on your long side, making sure it's lined up on the top. Yeah, I know you're worried about my fingers. Don't worry, I've been doing this all day and haven't lost a finger yet. Then you're going to turn it sideways so the long end is in there again. It's, this is 8 1/2 inches. So you're going to cut it at 4 1/4 inches. Now I know I said that I want to have it at I want it to be 4 inches, but I want to be able to trim each piece individually, and I'll show you that in just a second. I'm lining that up with my 4 1/4 inch line. So then you're going to take each individual one of these, and this now I want to cut a little bit off of each side to make sure all of them are really clean. So I set this at about 4 1/8. Maybe I don't know if I'm in there. That probably is now. I set it at 4 1/8 so that I can trim a little off of all of my edges. And then I just cut off that piece. Then I'm going to set this to about 5 3/8. Again, trim off that edge. Now I can make it 4 inches. I want to set this at 4. And you really want to follow your line all the way down to make sure it's straight, because this paper is very waffly right now. And you don't want to cut it wrong if you can avoid it. And I made little marks on my paper trimmer. This is 5 1/4 right there. So then I can trim that off, and now this should be the proper size that I want it to be. One more time I'll show you this so you have the idea how to do it. Again, 5 3/8, just roughly. I mean, it doesn't have to be 5 3/8. It can be anything. You just want to trim a little bit off of each side to make sure that all of your sides, any of the weird edges that you might have gotten from adding paper to your edges, or when you put the scraps onto your paper, sometimes you have a problem with making sure that you don't have some hanging over your edges, if that even made sense. It should have. That edge had a lot. You can see that. You see? That had that piece hanging off. So if I hadn't trimmed it, I would have had that little weird piece, and I'd have had to go back and fix that. Next step, we're going to run these through the die cutter in an embossing folder. I'm only going to do the ones that I cut down from full-size pages. The ones that are already Starburst were done. That's all I want to do with those. Okay, well, let's go with this one first. This one is from Doris, and it's called Tribal Background. I thought it looked like snowflakes. Frankly, didn't look tribal to me, but that's what it kind of looks like. Let's run this through, and I'll come back after I've finished that. I have another one. Oh, here it is. This one is also Doris, and I think it's called Snowflake, but I could be wrong, but it's just snowflakes. So I'm going to alternate, and I'll be back when I'm done with those. I've cut all of my bases, well, my card bases, to 8.5 inches long by 5.5 inches tall, and then I scored it at 4.25 inches to make it what they call an A2 size card. And then my bases, some of them I've had to cut down a little bit more because they weren't straight, because when I trimmed them the first time I had issues with them, as you can imagine. And so what I like to do before I glue them down, I like to make sure that I've checked to see that it will fit on the card base, because sometimes I don't do that right, and you can see that they're crooked. So I'm just going to put some tear tape on the back of it, and then we'll be ready to put this card together. I'm going to show you two cards that I'm going to make two cards for you, just so you kind of get the idea of what I came up with from my ideas of digging through all of my stash. And basically what I did was I found a lot of pre-made die cuts, like things you buy at Michael's or Joann's that are in a baggie, and they're all Christmas themed, and they were really handy, and they made this process a lot faster. And then I only stamped on a few things. And this is one of the cards where I stamped on. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to lay my card base down, hopefully straight. And the other thing that you'll want to make sure of is, if you do have words, like in this one I have the word hoe, you want to make sure that the hoe is going in the right direction. Weirdly enough, this pattern has hoe going this direction, and you see it upside down there. I don't know how that's even possible, but it is. So just so you remember when you're doing these, you want to make sure you check for logistics on that. Then I stamped and used alcohol markers on this little fella. He was a stamp that one of my mom's friends found at a garage sale, and it didn't come with any information of who made it. So unfortunately, I don't know who made it. So I can't give you the details on that. I'm going to put him almost in the center but near the bottom, because I want to put... I put some fun foam behind him. I don't know if you can see that. It's blue fun foam. And that makes him raised, and it also makes him so if he gets kind of smushed in the mail, he won't end up having divots, where if you put like lines of that foam tape, you sometimes have it where there's a divot in between. Then I found these, and I forgot about them until just now, unfortunately. They're from Spellbinders, called Dear Santa. They're chipboard stickers. I don't remember where I got these, but fortunately I did get them. And I thought I would use one of these that looks kind of cool with this. I think I like the red one. This one on the top is fine. We'll use it. And I'd be happy that we did. It already has sticky stuff on it, and foam tape. Hopefully it's not too big. There we go. So that's that one. I think that one's okay. I wish this red was a little bit more that color so it brought them together, but I'm okay with that. Then my final card that I'm going to make with you is in the green family, and I have a green card base, same size. In the meantime, we'll do our sentiment and our bulbs. These are from a stamp set called Stamps of Life Lights for Christmas. That's the name of that stamp set. It's an oldie but a goodie. I gotta find my green background at some point. I'm gonna use some watercolors and paint these kind of quickly. I colored them with, or stamped them with, Gina K's amalgam ink, and this one had some issues, so I'm not going to use it. And then I made some extras. So what I did was I used some Gina K amalgam jet black ink to stamp them. Then I used clear embossing powder and heat set them so that it would be shiny and it would hold my watercolors in. The watercolors I'm going to use are these, I think they're called the Viva. They're these color sheets. I really like them. They're a lot of fun to play with. And the colors are really rich and vibrant and, like I said, loads of fun. I think I'm going to use what they call light green. I have a little blending palette here. Got my water, and I just want to see if I like that color. Oh, I think that's a good color. Looks really good with my, it looks really good with my background paper. And I'm just gonna paint these. I really like these watercolor brushes. In fact, of all the brushes I've ever bought, I think these are my favorites. The points are really nice, and I think they do a really good job of making it easy to get, you know, to keep that really nice point on there. And then I want to do a red. I don't know if I like the red in here. It's called Deep Red. Or deep, no, it's called Crimson. And then there's a deep pink. And I'm going to put the crimson down. And then I'm going to put some of this deep pink. I think the deep pink is actually darker than the crimson. So I'm going to put the two of them together to get a little bit darker color. It's kind of an orangey pink. I'm not sure I love it, but we're going with it anyway. Yeah, I like it once it's on there. And I'm going to cut these out so it doesn't matter if I go outside the lines. These colors are really nice and vivid from these Viva color sheets. There was a young man that developed these, and he needed money to get his project off the ground. And if you invested, and I don't remember how much it wasn't much, it was like $16. If you invested, then he would give you the first sets off the line for free, which I thought was really nice. And Lindsay the Frugal Crafter is the one that told us about it, and so this was several years ago. I got these and I love them. I don't use them all as much as I should, but I do love them. Let me grab some silver marker and we'll work from there. Alrighty, I found my paper that I was looking for. My layered paper. It's this one. And I'm going to get this out of the way because you know I'll end up with that water on me. And this is our background. And I'm going to use a Sharpie that's silver. It looks like this. And I'm just going to color in be nice if I was wearing my glasses, I'd see better. Okay, I'll be back as soon as I've cut these out. We're going to attach our base first to our card front. Look at a little overhang there. Then I have this big tag that says, "Wishing you a Christmas that shines bright." And what I thought I would do, I have black embroidery floss. And what I thought I would do is, so I'm just going to thread this through the front of my tag. And then I'm going to pull it through. And I have a pretty decent size length of embroidery floss here. And I'm just going to pull both of them through. So I thought what I do, oh, and I went around the outside with a black marker. This is watercolor paper. And then I'm just gonna, I think I'm gonna lay it like that. Then I'm going to take this piece and lay it, I'm gonna kind of put glue underneath there. And I'm going to lay it so that it looks like it's going to be attached to this one bulb. This should dry clear, so we shouldn't have any big problems with it, you know, with seeing the glue. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my red ones. Oh, and I wanted to show you how I'm going to go around the edge of these if I haven't already. If you do this, like to go around so that you don't see any white, do it with your marker on the back side, because if you do it with your marker on the front side and your marker slips, you're going to end up getting ink on your front, and you don't want to have that happen. And then I can just take off the backing, and we'll just lay this right on top of our thread, making sure that it doesn't go off the side of the card. And so that's that side. And then we have two more that we're going to put on the other side, and we're going to do the same thing with our embroidery floss. We're just going to put a little drop of it there. So then we're going to put the green one, no, I probably should do the red one, next to the green tag. And I had some things I could have put on my little tag. I have some Christmas brads, but of course I forgot them before now, and so I can't really put them on now. Okay, then we're going to take the other end of this. I should have just left it attached, huh? That would have been smart, but I didn't. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm just going to stick it down into the foam. Then I'm going to just cut. So all we have to do now is, I've got my last little spot there. I just want to make sure that this one, again, we have to make sure it stays on the card, but I'm going to overlap it with the red one a little bit. Okay, so let's see, I had a stack of Christmas inspired things. Yeah, things. I'm using a technical word that I thought I would look through and see if I can find something that we can stick on here that will look like it's supposed to be on here. I'm going to stick that right there. I like that. Okay. So let me show you all of the cards I made, and I made a lot of Christmas cards. Once you start doing this, what you're going to find is that you make a lot more than you expect to make, because what I did with mine was I made two 8.5 by 11 pieces of cardstock that I did the like this, straight across, up and down kind of lines. Then everything that was left over I made into a Starburst card. Okay, there's that one. So now you've seen that one. I'm going to set that one aside because I figured that you've seen that one now. Okay, there's that one. Then we have Noel, and this is the Starburst that I was talking about. And this, the Noel was one of those embellishments that I got from, I think, Michael's or Joann's. I'm not sure, but I found a lot of them, thankfully, because if I had to come up with stamped images and or watercolor images, it would have taken me years to do this. As it is, this process has taken me about a month to do all of the regular cards that I did and the Christmas cards that I did. So luckily Corona was available for the quarantine to keep me on task. Here's one. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And I used a little thin fun foam under this, but not under the house. And then I used a little bit of ribbon right there. Then you saw him. Here's one that I used all of those different embellishments, but what I did with this one was I put a really thick fun foam under this piece, a thin piece of fun foam under this, and no fun foam under that, so that it made it 3 different heights. Then this one is sleigh bells jingling, ring ting tingling, and what I did with this is I cut, there was a long row of packages, and I cut them out so that I could put them under, like I could put some fun foam under this, and then the rest of them I just glued underneath the tree. And then the rest of these pieces all came in that set I was telling you about. This one is very simple. I took the Season's Greeting and I took, this is just red metallic thread, and I glued it right onto the fun foam that's underneath. Oh, I can see that I don't have enough glue going on there because the fun foam has too much thread. So luckily I found it before someone else got it, right? If someone would have gotten this as a gift in the mail, they would have been like, hey Sandy, thanks for the piece of card that fell apart. Then this one, Warm Wishes, and the little urn, very simple. It's amazing how long this took me when most of these are so simple. Oh, and I used 3 different colors. I used blue families, greens, and reds. This one I just put fun foam under that, and then I cut this Merry Christmas out in a flag shape. This I used one of my diamond art pieces from Fancells. I thought that was fun, and it says, please Santa, define good, and then I put a piece of candy on there. I thought that was kind of frisky. Then this one I used, it was like a journaling spot card, and I thought it'd be fun to glue that down, and then I glued this flag embellishment, and then the word joy is raised. Nothing else on that was raised but joy. This is just, it's got some of the red metallic thread under it. I wanted it to look kind of like flames, but then I thought, oh, it'll be fun just to have it, I don't know. I just like the idea of it. And this is, oh, the other thing I forgot to tell you is I used some Distress Oxide inks in the Tempting Turquoise, I think it is, or else Salty Ocean maybe, and ran it over the embossed backgrounds. And I did the same with the red and the green. I did different, I used red and green in Distress Oxide. You can see it better on this one. I just lightly ran it over that so that it wasn't too predominant, but I wanted the embossed image to look embossed. I didn't want it to be so you couldn't tell it was even embossed. Then this one I really liked. I think there's 2 of these. Nope, there's not. I liked the little snow globe, and then it was so simple, and it just says Merry Christmas, so it's very, very simple. This one, there was pink in this piece of paper, so I thought it would work with this, so I did the Let It Snow. Very easy. Here's the other one that has the snowman on it. Now here is one of the Starburst cards, and there are, I think, 2 green ones, 2 red ones, and 2 blue ones in this. And I actually, of all of them, I like the Starburst pattern better. I think it's a lot simpler to figure out what you want to put on it, and just put an image in a spot on it and you're done. But I had made so many of these backgrounds with the pieces going in different directions that I kind of felt like, well, I was committed, so I went with it. And then this one just has a little bit of twine that has gold in it. Oh, got a lot of cards coming off. This one has a bunch of green metallic thread that I ran around the card base, and then I hung each one of these pieces on it, but then I used glue dots to glue underneath them so they wouldn't swing around. They could if you want them to, but they won't. Then this one, I thought it would be fun to put a little candy cane on my center season to be jolly. This one I used, this was already, I'd already used one of my scallop punches, and I punched the round scallop out, and then I laid the little gift on top of it. 'Tis the season to sparkle, and then this one had so much sparkly paper on it, I thought that was fun. I kind of like this one because there's a lot going on, but I didn't do much. I don't, for some reason, this poinsettia image and the warm wishes really set off the different parts of that card. Thought it was fun. This one I put a lot of time into, and I mean, it doesn't look like I did, but I did. I took that gold twine, gold and white twine, and I wrapped it around the card, and then I punched a hole in either end of this warm wishes and threaded the twine through there. Then I don't think it's glued down. No, it's not glued down, but the twine is glued down. And then I put one little glue dot underneath the top and the bottom of each of the candy canes, and then I hung them, theoretically hung them. They were really glued down, but I hung them from that twine. This one, I put the dog with the packages on top of this little journaling card, and then ho ho ho. Thought it was fun. This one has the car and the houses and 'tis the season to sparkle. I thought it was fun just because it was a scene, and I created it all from those embellishments, which was easy to do. Then I only have a few more. I know you're thinking, geez, it's never going to end. This one I used some of that red metallic thread and put it under that little piece of candy. And then this one I did all dogs in different layers. This one's got a big piece of foam under it, and this one, I think there's no foam under those. This one is cat inspired, and the cat has a package, and then I cut out this from a piece of cardstock. Then I took this and put the little twine through it, and then I layered this on fun foam. Here's that reindeer again. This time I completely cut him out, and that took forever. And then the Merry Christmas was not a thought bubble or talking bubble. I made it into one by just cutting it out that way. And then last but not least, this one, the little ornaments are just dangling off of red metallic thread, and the do not open until Christmas is on foam. And that is all of them. If you want to know my total, I will tell you how many I made. I think there are 34 cards. Here's what I'll tell you. I don't send a ton of Christmas cards, but I think that this is going to be a year where there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be alone, especially in nursing homes. And I thought that if I made a ton of cards, that at least I would be able to drop a lot off at our nursing homes, and that makes me happy. So I hope that you enjoyed this. It gave you some ideas about how you can use your scraps and keep busy while we're quarantined. I am out of quarantine now, but I spent most of my quarantine time making cards, as you can imagine. Between these and the probably 35 or 40 I made just standard cards with the same process. It took a long time. So I hope you enjoyed this. So you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and please tell your friends about me on social media, because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.